Once upon a time, there lived an old woman on a mountain covered in heather. She had a cozy wooden house with soft lights burning. Every day she cared for her animals and tended her home. It was a wet autumn, and the woman knew winter was coming, so she stored food for her animals and fuel to keep the cottage fires burning. In the mornings, she would walk the land collecting herbs that people sought for healing for. She knew all the herbs and what they could do, and in this way, she earned her living. One night, as she was sitting with her animals in front of the fire, she heard a great banging outside and looked out, and there in the light of the house was a young fox with a beautiful white blaze. "Ah, you're hungry," she thought, and hoping he would find it, she filled a bowl with food and placed it outside. Every night as it came toward winter, she would fill a bowl and the food would be gone, and sometimes the bowl. She guessed he had a hungry vixen ready to have cubs and was trying to bring her food. She decided to put the food in bags that were strong enough to be carried and easy enough to tear, so the fox could carry the food easier to his den. Every day the bag was gone, and better still, her bowls were safe. One day she needed turf, so she walked up the steep hill behind her house to the bog where her turf was sitting in piles to be collected. It was weary work, but it kept her house cozy, for the turf burned quick and bright. On the way down turf in a bag, she slipped and fell, twisting her ankle badly. The turf spilled and the old woman groaned. She knew few people came to the bog at that time of year, and she had little hope of help back to her house with her turf. She knew it wasn't broken, but she didn't think she could walk on it. As she lay on the ground, she heard a rustling to her left, and the fox slowly emerged from the bushes lining the brittle road. It was time for his food, and he was right on time, but tonight she knew there would be no food. She was calm, but a little afraid too. She had given the fox space and left food as a gift, but it was still a wild creature. The fox edged closer, sniffing carefully and relaxed as if her scent was familiar and nothing to be afraid of. She looked at the great golden eyes as they watched her calmly, and she felt in her pocket for the sandwich she had brought to the bog. It wasn't much, but she threw it to her companion. He ate it, gulping quickly, honey eyes still watching her. She was glad to see he looked healthy. She knew it was important he hunt, so he did not forget how to, but it was okay to feed him a little. Winters on the mountain were cold, and snow would cover the ground in a few weeks. As the lady watched the fox, he slowly inched further, sniffing, and then settled down beside her, looking at her. Then he gave a high-pitched cry, and she knew he knew her from her scent on the food and her presence on the mountain, and she was no longer afraid. The fox was keeping her company. She was getting very cold, so slowly, trying not to upset her companion, she sat up examining her ankle. Quietly, the fox watched, and moving forward, sniffed her ankle and licked where she was hurt. It was a strange moment, sitting on the frosty ground, turf all around, but she felt as happy as in her house with her animals, except for the cold and the pain in her ankle. Slowly, she reached out and touched the fox's head, and he nestled into her hand. "Oh, friend," she said, "I am in a fix." She had not intended to care for the fox, let alone have him care for her. The fox moved away gently and headed into the trees, and when he returned, he had a long, sturdy branch in his hand. She took the stick and quickly fashioned a support and got to her knees, resting on the branch. It was strong under her weight, and she slowly made her way the last of the journey to her door, where she rested exhausted. Once inside, she sat down heavily, glad to be indoors, but she was cold, and her turf lay scattered on the old bog road. Then she saw the fox coming in the distance, a lump of turf carried in his mouth. Time and time again, he walked up the road, each time returning and dropping a piece of turf at her door, just as he had before carried his food away from it. The woman managed to light her fire and get warm, resting her ankle, and in the morning, when she went limping to leave food out for her animals and the fox, she found a small pile of turf in front of her. "Oh my," she said, "you are a good fox." And somewhere in the distance, she heard a barking cry as if he was answering her. "Thank you, my friend," she whispered. Her foot healed well, for she used her own dandelion rub to bring down the swelling, and impatient though she was to be on her feet, she never had to worry about her fire going out for as long as she could not walk. She found turf scattered at her door.